Welcome back to Trailblaze. This is Jamal Simmons.
I'm Nayyera. This is a show about the America that we are becoming.
All right, I'm excited about this week's episode because I've been waiting to talk to Nayyera all week about all of the things that are going on right now. We're all following the news. We're seeing what's happening. We're a few weeks out from Election Day. The polls are moving, but they're still not all the way there. And you keep hearing people talk about this concept. We all think we know what it is, but they talk about it all the time. It's about the Electoral College. And what is the Electoral College, and why is the Battleground so important? These Battleground state polls, the Battleground state numbers, why is this so important for this election? So we're going to talk about this today, right, Nayyera?
I mean, Jamal, it is this weird message that we get that every vote counts, make sure you vote, but then you hear in the news attention focused on states like Pennsylvania and Nevada and Arizona, and it's actually all part of a bigger plan of how the powers that be, the powers that know how things really work, precinct by precinct, have, as you call it, playing the system, but not really playing it fair.
Yeah, totally. And so we're going to have a great conversation today also with a really good friend of ours, Christina Reynolds. Christina Reynolds, who is at Emily's List today, has been all over the Democratic Party. She's worked for candidates that you have heard of. Some of them you haven't heard of, but she's worked for a lot of candidates, a lot of women, and she knows a lot about how the system works. So I'm excited to talk to Christina. I think you are too.
I am. And Jamal, I did want to make sure that we also talked a little bit about what's actually been happening, right? Because it's not as if the election being only 40 some odd days away, everything is set and good to go. I mean, there's voting underway in many states, early voting, yet people are still trying to challenge the rules. In Arizona, the Republican Party is like, oh, you 100,000 voters, we don't think your citizenship records are up to date. Sorry.
Yeah. So, all right. So exactly what we're hearing is all these states that everybody's talking about in the battleground. We're also finding out that it looks like Donald Trump and the MAGA forces on the Republican side are just trying to work the refs. They're trying to work the system, change the rule of the game before the actual election day. So we don't really know how things are going to shake out. And then they try to win this game in overtime and work these refs. So you've got Arizona and Georgia on last Friday. Georgia's election board, let me just read this so I get it right. Mm-hmm. On Friday, Georgia's election board ruled that ballots must be hand counted by local precincts in spite of concerns from election officials and opposition from some state officials. The board ruled 3-2 to require ballots to be hand counted on top of the already occurring machine count. The decision came with less than 50 days before Election Day. Even prominent Republicans, such as Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, had raised concerns in the past over the hand counting of ballots. This is going to take forever. It's going to be a mess. Who knows how exact the hand counts are going to be? They're always a little bit of fuzz in the hand counts. But this is just to create enough chaos for the Trump forces to be able to argue something in court and keep this election played out till January.
And it ties back to Georgia being the place that Trump called and said, hey, find me, 10,000, 12,000 more votes. Like, help me out here, buddy. Right? Because he was looking at which states he could win. Arizona also got under his skin because that was the first state that ended up being called by Fox News that started the slide towards Biden winning. So a lot of this is part of Trump's psychology, but it goes much bigger than that. Every state that we're starting to see where these challenges are coming, where they're trying to limit voting, not give more people the ability to vote, but limit voting, they're all states with significant minority populations.
That's right. And so as we're thinking about how America's changing, right, the America we're becoming, what you're seeing is there are some states that are the anchor states for this change that's occurring, right? These states, particularly along the Sun Belt, so many more of us live in places like California, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, even Texas, Louisiana, Georgia, into North Carolina. So all these states that are now what's considered to be battlegrounds or right on the bubble of the battleground are states with considerable Latin American, Latino American, South Asian, African American, big populations of people of color. And we're also starting to see, because of the way things are changing, a lot of college educated whites who have maybe made some money,
Mhm.
decided to move after COVID to some place that's a little bit more spacious for their family. They've moved to places like Florida and Georgia and North Carolina in order to have a different kind of a lifestyle. So the country's changing a lot, and we're seeing it happen in these battleground states.
And while we're seeing it play out in voting, let's not forget that there's a whole machine that was well before this election was even underway about making sure that the Republican Party or Donald Trump or only certain types of people were able to vote freely. And this is why I'm really excited that Christina is going to be joining us in just a moment, because she's going to help us understand this idea of where votes count and what does a path to victory actually look like for someone like Kamala Harris?
Yeah, the Electoral College is one of these things that we've kind of wrestled back and forth with about a lot over the last few years because Democrats have won has won the popular vote in many of these elections in every national election since 1992, except for George W. Bush's reelect in '04. So the question is, do we really want a system where the majority of American voters are the ones who choose the leader? Or are we trying to have a system where it's gamed just a little bit so that people who maybe aren't in the majority still get to retain power? And as we really wrestle through America over the next 250 years, because here's the thing, this is 2024. And 2026 is going to be the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. The person we choose to be president this November will be the president of the United States at our 250th birthday. They won't just be looking backwards. This is the person who will be charting the course for the next 250 years of this country. And do we want that person to be somebody who thinks the 1950s or the 1920s or the 1890s with robber barons and women don't get to vote and black people are being segregated? Do we think that this is the person that ought to be the leader of this country at that moment? I just don't think so.
Oh, well, Jamal, there are plenty of people who still do.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right.